Hey guys, Horrorman back for another review. So today we're going to take a look at the RPD officer police uniform version from, well, it's basically Resident Evil 2 Leon Kennedy. So this isn't exactly a licensed figure, it's a third party figure, but you kind of get the point. It's definitely very subtle with the graphics, but you do get this really cool shot of Leon on the front. Now you also get this little stamp at the top left, and it basically says S version, and that's actually the special, I guess special version because it has everything. It's loaded with accessories. So if you get the S version, you're definitely going to get the upgraded version. Over to the back, you just get some of the credits for the cast and crew of the people responsible for making this figure. You got the Lim Toys logo at the top, just a notice in multiple different languages. Then you have some social media links on there as well. And then of course you do have just those same kind of logos on the sides and the bottom. So let's go ahead and get this out of the box and have a closer look. So once you take the outer packaging off, you do get these plastic clamshell. You can see there's just so much accessories in here. Alright, so here's Leon outside of the packaging. And man, I tell you, just at first glance, this looks really, really good. He's definitely a little smaller than what I'm used to, because I do collect a lot of like the NECA scale figures, so he's definitely going to be more in line with that Mezco like 1/12 scale. But it's just really nice to have really anything from this game, so I'm really excited to do this review. Now, I know Robo from the Fwoosh did a really in-depth review of this, so I do recommend watching that one as well. I'm going to try to do as good as I can, but some of these accessories are so small, I might have to show some of the accessories kind of in the clamshell, so I might have to go through that a little quicker. Let's go ahead and move on with the review. I'll get some nice close-ups of this head sculpt, and then the interchangeable head sculpt. We'll talk about the articulation, just the details and the outfit and everything else. Again, we'll take a look at some of the accessories, and then we'll do some comparisons, and then I'll give you my final thoughts later on, as well as a slideshow. So let's go ahead and get a nice close-up of the head sculpt. Alright, so taking a look at the first head sculpt here, and this is the one that's on him inside of the packaging, I really do like the likeness here. Now this is based on the Resident Evil 2 remake, which is the more recent video game. So it is an actor that actually plays the role of Leon, and then he is digitally rendered into the game, which is really cool. And I do think this looks really, really close to what that guy looks like. So again, just really nice details in the face. I really like the hair. You could definitely see some different shades inside of that like hairline and where the part is. So I really like that. Get some nice shadows in there. But you could definitely see that he really does look just like Leon from the game. And even from the side, again, just looks really, really good. You can kind of see his ear kind of peeking through the hair. Again, just really nice texture and detail in that hair itself. It's really, really nice. And then from the other side, kind of see like the different hair kind of combed over. Just again, just really nice texture, nice coloring, just really nice detail. Now this likeness is really good, and I definitely like this head sculpt. It'll probably be the one that I primarily display Leon with, but you also do get an additional head sculpt, and this is going to be the more battle damage head sculpt, and this one looks really good too. So to interchange this, it's pretty simple. Just going to pop that off, and it has a very unique looking peg, so it is pretty thick underneath these head sculpts. So if you were looking to put this Leon on another, like his head sculpt on another body, might be a little tough just because of how big that cavity is. So then you could just go ahead and put the new head sculpt on here and just fit this over just like that. And this battle damage head is really cool. He's got this like kind of grimace, little bit of attitude, little anger to him. I mean, he's had a pretty rough day. First day on the job, he's fighting in the zombie apocalypse, so you know he's not going to be too happy. But yeah, definitely a nice assortment. Even though you only get the two head sculpts, I really couldn't ask for much more because they're both really good. And you can see the different bruises on his face here. So he's got a little bit of a cut above his left eyebrow. And then he has another one on his cheek. It's really close to the hair. But yeah, just a really good expression on there. And it is a little hard to see the cut on this side, but you have to kind of lift the hair just a little bit. But you can see it on his right cheek. So taking a look at the rest of the figure, again, this is really more in line with that Mezco 112 collective type figure, so it's pretty much all covered in different layers of clothes, so it's not going to be like that standard like NECA style figure. And now because of like the layers of clothes, a lot of these pieces are adjustable, or they can be taken off, or you can kind of alter the way you want to display them, which is really nice. So of course he does have his RPD, like his Raccoon City Police Department garb on. He was only there for one day, really, before the place was destroyed for good. But he does wear the outfit, and it looks really good. He's got this kind of like, flak jacket on, like a vest on, bulletproof armor, which is really nice. The blue outfit, which looks really good. He's got the elbow pads on, and again, those are adjustable. So if you want to move some things around. And on the back of the vest, you could also see he's got the RPD logo on there. Really cool. You got the different straps. And the straps and a lot of the fabric, it's all real fabric. It's, they kind of fit in plastic, but you can't even tell sometimes if it's plastic or if it's fabric or it's metal. So they've done a really good job in kind of fooling your eye to make you think that it's something when it's not. So just really nice details overall. And of course, Leon has his signature fingerless gloves, which look really nicely sculpted. I like the texture on there. And down to Leon's lower half, just starting at the waist, again, just really nice details. The handcuff almost looks real. Really nice paint on there. Different pockets, different storage for his gun and his ammo pouches, and just little places to put all these different weapons he's going to need to fight these zombies. He's got these really cool knee pads, which look awesome. The boots look really good. You can see the laces, the design on the boots look really good. See the pockets on the back, a little bit of wash in the paint. It does have some treads on the feet. No peg hole. So the articulation in this Leon here is really good as well. So we'll go ahead and start with the head, so you can turn his head really good. No issues there. He could look down really far. Look back or up. Not that great. So that's probably the only limit for the head so far. He could definitely kind of angle his head a bit to give you some attitude. The arms themselves have a pretty good bit of articulation, even though he has that fabric outfit. So you can do the T-pose, go all the way down with the arm, and you can go back and you can go forward pretty good. No issues really. He does have a double hinged elbow, so you could almost cross his arms. Looks like he's kind of putting on his gloves. So really cool articulation there. He can turn pretty good. Can bend down pretty good. Look back. Kind of angle left and to the right, which looks good. Legs can go out about that far. Does have the double knees. And then, because he does have the pants, he's not going to get a huge split, unfortunately, unless you want to split his pants. The foot goes down, goes up, and you can see how the shoe like hides the articulation. And then he does have plenty of rocker. So, yeah, really good articulation. The wrists seem to move pretty good. The gloves might get in the way a little bit. They do twist. Alright, so taking a look at some of these accessories here, we'll start with like the half of the first tray. So you do have the different keys for the different doors, and these are little skeleton keys with different logos on them, like hearts, diamonds, clubs, and the spades. And that's just kind of going along with the doors that you unlock in the game. Looks like you got like maybe the Matilda here, and then you have the like extended piece, which is really cool. So you got another handgun here, and the handguns, all the guns really come with like different accessories. So with the handguns, you have the different clip that you could put in. And then you have these guns over here, and they also have different clips that you could put in, and they're all done with different paint, metallic paint, just all different looks for each different gun. And then you have this really cool bayonet knife here with a gold handle, looks really good. And then down to the bottom half of the first tray, you can see some really unique pieces here. Just starting on the right, you do have several different hands that you can give for Leon. Not as much as Mezco, but definitely enough to hold the different accessories. You get to see the other clip for the gun. You got a really cool box of ammo here, which is really important, of course, in the game. Then you have the Mr. Raccoon, which is a little toy that you kind of collect throughout the game. There's a flashlight. You have the sample of the G virus and some other kind of virus related things. You do have the flashbang grenade. You have that little, looks like that security key that Leon had to get into the different areas. Then you have a grenade. So really cool, very small accessories. And the last bit of accessories you have are really cool. These are a bit larger than the other pieces. So you do have the stand, which looks really good, and you do have that RPD Raccoon City logo on there, and it does have a two-piece construction, very similar to like a Hot Toys stand. Then you do get the shotgun, and that's got a strap. You have the typewriter with a little bit of words on the sheet, which is really cool. You do have a flamethrower, you have a rocket launcher, and then there's little attachments. So there's the flame, there's a little rocket that kind of shoots out. This is the microphone or communicator that Leon has, and this is like a strap. And then finally you have a little thing of the green herb. So plenty of accessories for this figure, and again, it is the S version. You don't necessarily need a stand for Leon because he stands pretty good, but you can see it does say Leon Kennedy on the end, S Kennedy on the stand, so really cool, and it does have his like badge on there. And then all you have to do is just put this little tab on here, push it in just like that, and then Leon just kind of sits on it again, just like a Hot Toys type stand. And the typewriter itself looks really nice. You got some different paint strokes with like some black and gray, a little bit of silver, a little bit of gold, just really nice details on here. And if you want to pause the screen now, you could definitely read this full note. So really, really nice attention to detail. Here he is holding one of the handguns, and you can see he does get a really nice tight grip on. I can't remember if this is the Matilda or not, but this handgun with the stock on here you can hold just fine as well. The hands are real nice and flexible, so he's able to get the thumb and the trigger finger in there just fine. Here he is holding another one of the handguns. Aside from holding the accessories, he can store some on the figure itself. So I do have the smallest handgun in the holster on his right side. I was unable to get the larger guns into there, so this smaller gun is perfect for that. And I also got the flashlight in this little loop on the belt, which fits perfect in there. He does have this really cool knife with the gold handle, and you're actually able to slide that into the sheath right on the back of the belt here, which looks really good. And then you can also put his walkie-talkie in this pocket right here, and then there's a little cord that goes around his shoulder, and then it attaches to the very top of this little piece of fabric. It just clips right in there. And here's a better look at how that microphone does go over the shoulder. I really like that cord, very realistic style. And some of the other accessories, you really need like the smaller grip, like the tighter gripping hands to actually hold these items. And this isn't like a perfect example, but here's like the flash grenade and one of the tighter gripping hands. And then here is another one of the kind of smaller accessories, again, in more of a tighter gripping hand. So it just depends on how small the accessories are. You're going to have to figure out which hand works best. And here he is with the flamethrower, and I did change that left hand to be a more wide open hand to kind of hold on to this, and he does pose pretty well with it. And in case you want to roast some zombies, you do get this really cool flame effect on here. So if you want to go ahead and attach that. And once you have it attached, it's a really nice effect. I like how it starts out kind of clear and then goes into that more fire. So Very cool. And here he is with the rocket launcher, and I really like that the eye sight, like that little thing, actually lines up with his eye really well. And just like with the flamethrower, you do get a little effect piece. So with the rocket launcher, you have this rocket launcher that's firing out of the launcher itself. And I just left the peg kind of pulled out just a little bit to show you how it goes into the empty slot. So there's 3 rockets in, and the 4th one is just shooting out. So really cool. So if you just want to have it with no rocket, you could take it out, or you could show it with the rocket coming right toward your enemy. So for the knife, really the best hand for that is this left gripping hand. And unfortunately, you only get one of these, so you don't get it for his right hand. So if you wanted to, you can put the knife in like the trigger hand. It fits okay. It's a little loose, especially if you try to get like the bladed side kind of pointed outwards. So you only have really one like specific knife hand. It just doesn't fit that good in the right hand. Now, of course, if Leon's not feeling all too good, he's going to have to find himself some green herb. So if you want to go ahead and put that little pot of herb in his hand, he can hold it pretty good with that open left hand, and then you could just kind of control it with the right hand. So he definitely looks cool with that. Very important accessory, especially if you plan on making it through the whole game. Alright, and then the final 2 accessories I'm going to show him holding. You do have the Mr. Raccoon, which is just this little like toy that you can kind of collect throughout the whole game to kind of unlock some achievement. And then there's one of the keys. I think I have the spade in his hand. And he kind of holds it. Honestly, it looks like he's holding a cigarette. But the hands have to be really, really small for him to hold this. And really, the trigger finger is probably the only thing I can get him to use that on. So it's a cool accessory. Maybe would have been better if they just had a certain hand for it, or had at least one of the keys in his hand just like permanently molded. So, but like I said, overall just really, really nice accessories. There's some things I didn't quite mention, like there is some fabric strap on many of the different ones. I did mention that the different clips come out of the handguns, but certain guns you can even cock, like the shotgun, you can actually cock the gun. So really cool. Just really playable in terms of like what accessories you have. I really love how authentic it is to the game itself. So overall, I would definitely say this goes above and beyond with accessories. The only issue being that the wrist pegs are just a nightmare. So it's going to be hard to decide what hands you want to have on Leon, because you might leave them on there permanently. And just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about when I mean the pegs kind of just split apart, you can see how it just kind of stays in the hand and in the wrist. So I have to use a needle nose to get that peg out to get another hand on here. So yeah, man, the struggle is real and Leon's in pain. And it's worth noting that you can store the flashlight either direction you want. There's plenty of like grip in that loop to just keep it in any direction. And there's also this little circle right here, and it has a little peg on the end of it. I cannot figure out exactly what it's for. I think if you played around with it, you could probably hook one of these like grenades or the flashbang on here, and then there's a little circle on the end of this. I wasn't able to fit it in there though, so I'm not sure if that is intended for something, but it is there, possibly for extra storage. Alright, so for the first comparison, here he is with the NECA Resident Evil figures. Now these are from Resident Evil 4, but they are similar styles. Like the RPD Leon costume was an extra costume unlock in that game, so it definitely has the look of Resident Evil 2, and of course Ada is in both versions, but yeah, they're just a little too tall to scale with Leon. And here's a couple other NECA figures, again in that 7-inch scale. So you have a Hunk from Resident Evil, and then Michael Myers from Halloween 2, and again, these are definitely not quite in scale together. I think you can get a good picture with him and Hunk, just a little bit of forced perspective, but yeah, they're just a little too big. And here he is with something a little bit more in his scale. So you have the Mezco 112 Collective Jason from Friday the 13th and Michael Myers from Halloween 1978. And they look much better next to each other. I do think Jason's a little short, but that's just this figure in general. But he looks really good next to 112 Collective. Here he is next to the Black Mask from the Batman comics, and then you have the Batfleck from Batman vs. Superman. And again, I think these look really good next to each other. For the last 112 Collective comparison, here he is next to John Wick, his dog, and his crate of weapons. He's got a really cool crate that he came with. And again, yeah, he looks really good next to him. Here he is next to some Marvel Legends. So you have the Mary Jane Watson from Spider-Man, and then you have the Winter Soldier from the Winter Soldier movie, played by Sebastian Stan. And they look pretty good next to each other too. So if you want to do Marvel Legends next to him, I think that could definitely work. And maybe she could be a stand-in for Claire. Here he is with the original Resident Evil 2 Leon figure made by Toy Biz. And it's really cool to see these next to each other, but you could definitely see how much different they are now all these years later. And then for the final comparison, here he is next to the Collector's Edition statue, and it's the only real licensed figure or statue that was available for this game at the time. So definitely cool to see these next to each other. Clearly a much different scale. Alright, so that's my review of the Lim Toys Resident Evil 2 RPD Officer, aka Leon S. Kennedy. And yeah, man, this is a really good figure for a third-party company. I mean, you really can't ask for much more than this. The only real letdown I have on this figure is going to be the wrist pegs. And these are definitely a bit of a nightmare. So you basically only get one set, which are supposed to retain themselves in the wrists themselves. But what happens is when you pop the hands off, if you don't do it correctly, or, well, you're just basically popping the hands off, sometimes half of the peg stays in the wrist and half stays in the arm, kind of basically splitting the peg itself. Now it can be popped back together, but since it's so small, it definitely leads to a possible breakage. And realistically, it's definitely a little bit of a QC issue. And I have watched other reviews, so I can confirm it's not just mine. It does seem to be a bit of an issue with just the way it's kind of the figure's made. So that's the biggest issue. So as long as you don't break anything with that, you should be okay. But you get so many accessories with this figure that you really do need to change these hands out in order to properly hold the different items. So having an issue with that, it's definitely a problem. I definitely would have had pegs built into the hands, that way you could just interchange them like you would pretty much with any other company. So that was definitely a misstep on the design process of the figure. And the only other issue I've had with this figure is when you try to move the articulation around a little bit, try to do some different poses, the shirt becomes like untucked almost completely. And if you move it around a lot, it will completely become untucked. And it's tough to get back in because there's no stretch to the pants. The pants have like a belt around them too. So it's a little bit much with that. So I almost wish they would either sewed the shirt to the pants or just had a better way of working the pants. It just doesn't work real good. So I've had to kind of use a toothpick or just like a very small tool to kind of put the clothes, like just kind of tuck everything back in. Otherwise it just looks all crazy. But like I said, man, I mean, those couple gripes aside, and the wrist pegs are definitely a big gripe, I'm not going to lie. So that's definitely an issue. But besides those, I really do like the figure. There's just so much to like about this Leon figure. There's tons of accessories. Realistically, they made everything you would want from this game. There's just nothing I could think of that I needed that they didn't make. The interchangeable heads are outstanding. I mean, to me, it's better than Mezco's level. And yeah, I did say that. I'm sorry, but the accuracy and just the realistic design to the face, it looks more like a real person than honestly most all the sculpts that I've seen Mezco do. A lot of their stuff is soft, missing the paint, and this just really comes alive, and I just think it's a fantastic sculpt. But with all the accessories combined, I mean, it's just a really, really cool figure. Definitely what we've been looking for a Leon. And like I said, aside from the way they've sculpted those pegs to not be in the hands, I really do think this is a really high quality figure, well worth the price. So if you like my review, go ahead and hit that like button. If you have a comment or question, please leave it. And if you haven't subscribed already, I have tons of reviews on here, mostly horror stuff. So if you like that, check it out. And until next time, guys, see ya.